Hello students, today we are going to proceed further in the topic of integrals and take up the next very important topic, that is definite integrals. Now as the name suggests, definite integral has a definite or fixed value. Now another thing which is important here is it gives us the area enclosed between the curve y equal to fx, the x-axis and the ordinates x equal to a and x equal to b. That is, if I is the integral, which is written like this, that integral fx dx, and here you write from a to b, we read it as a to b. These are called as limits of integration. Okay, and these are the values taken up by x, so we call it I is equal to integral fx dx from x equal to a to b. We don't write this x, but it is understood that it is the value taken up by x. Then I gives us the area between the curve y equal to fx, the x-axis and the ordinates x equal to a and x equal to b, and we also call it the area function. Or in the figure you can see that this is the curve y equal to fx, this is the ordinate x equal to a, this is x equal to b, and this is the x-axis. So when you find the definite integral of fx with respect to x from x equal to a to x equal to b, we mean the entire area covered between the curve y equal to fx, the x-axis and the ordinates x equal to a and x equal to b. So we also call it the area function, and thus we can write it as if ax equal to, now here instead of b I have written x so that the result comes out in terms of variable x. Then by the first fundamental theorem of integral calculus we have. Now if you remember, we had in the beginning of the chapter integral calculus, the very first video which I had taken on this topic, we had discussed the fundamental theorem of integral calculus, which gave us a relation between the differentiation and integration, or it gave us that integration is the inverse or reverse process of differentiation. The same thing can be written in terms of area function as if f be the continuous function defined on the closed interval a to b and a be the area function. Area function means which can be written as integral from fx of fx dx from x equal to a to x equal to x. Then a dash x is equal to fx for all x lying in this interval. Okay, now we are going to introduce you to the second theorem of fundamental theorem of integral calculus, which says that if f be the continuous function defined in a closed interval a to b and capital F be the antiderivative or the integral of f, then we have be the antiderivative of f, then we have fx is equal integral of fx dx is equal to capital Fx, which is the antiderivative or the integral. Now here the limits x equal to a to b, now here x is understood but it is not written here, so you write it as fx dx, capital Fx, and on the right side, now you enclose it within the square bracket, and on the right side you write x equal to a to b. This is the lower limit, this is the upper limit, and x is understood. We don't write it as x equal to a. You may write it as x equal to a, or you simply write a to b. It means the variable takes the value a to b, and when you evaluate it, it becomes, what we do is first we substitute the upper limit in it, that is fb, minus in the whole function we substitute the lower limit, that is fa. So the definite integral from a to b of fx dx is defined as the integral at the upper limit minus the integral at the lower limit. Now steps for calculating this. So we will first find the indefinite integral, like without the limits, whatever integral is given to us by the known results. We have done so many results till exercise 7.7. So whichever is applicable here, using that result, we will find the indefinite integral. Now here we have to be careful about this, that there is no need of taking the constant which we write along with the indefinite integral, for the very simple reason that suppose we take the result as fx plus c, then after applying the limits, what we get is, when we apply the upper limit, we get fb plus c, because this being a constant, there is no change irrespective of whether we are applying the limit as x equal to b or x equal to a. So we get fb plus c minus fa plus c and c gets cancelled, and we are back with fb minus fa, which anyways we would have got if we had only integrated and directly applied the result. So when we find the definite integral, we don't introduce c at all. If at all we introduce, after applying the limits, it gets cancelled. So in the result, we don't have an arbitrary constant, and it is for this reason that the definite it is called definite integral, because it has a fixed value. It doesn't change with the change in the value of the constant c. And then after finding the indefinite integral, or solving the indefinite integral, we finally get the value of the definite integral by substituting the upper limit minus, to the whole function we substitute the lower limit. So whatever we get, it's a constant which we get and is called a definite integral. So let's quickly take up some questions and see how we apply it. Now, so I'm starting with exercise 7.9. So let's take a very simple question. That is the first question. I is equal to minus 1 to 1 x plus 1 dx. Clearly here it's of the category a to b fx dx, where fx is x plus 1, the lower limit a is equal to minus 1, and upper limit b equal to 1. Here I am writing it just for your understanding, but in the questions you don't have to write it down and show that this is the integrand, this is the lower limit and upper limit. Okay, you simply start solving. So first step involved is solving the integral. So this comes out to be integral of, so basically what we have to do, again this you don't have to specify as it is, that you will find the indefinite integral and then you apply x equal to minus 1 to 1. But actually what we do is, we get the question, we directly write it as, now indefinite integral of this is x squared over 2 plus x. Now there is no need to introduce the constant, we simply write the integral and write x equal to minus 1 to plus 1. Now the next step involves substituting the upper limit minus substituting the lower limit. So you will get 1 squared over 2 plus 1 minus, then you apply minus 1 squared by 2 plus minus 1, and so the integral comes out to be 1 by 2 plus 1 minus 1 whole squared is again 1, so 1 by 2. Now here this 2 is the denominator of x squared, so here this doesn't get squared, so you have to be very careful while writing the brackets as to what is getting squared and what remains as it is. Now here this one becomes 1 upon 2, plus of minus 1 is minus 1. This gets solved to 3 by 2 minus half, which is 3 by 2 plus half, and so the integral is I is equal to 4 by 2, which is 2, which is a constant. So what do you notice here? That definite integral is always a fixed constant. First of all, it is a fixed value, and that too a constant. Okay, and the second point is that it is always free of the variable x. So that is, you will not have any term, you will never have any term involving x in the value of the definite integral. So it will always be a constant. Okay, so now let's take up another question. Any other, let's take up a trigonometric question. So we have, let's start with question number 5. Okay, now what is it? Integral of cos 2x dx from 0 to pi by 2. Now we read it as integral of cos 2x dx from 0 to pi by 2, but what actually is given is, this is the integral of this function with respect to x from when x lies from 0 to pi by 2. So again the same thing, we directly write the integral of cos is sine, so sine 2x, and this since it's a compound function, so upon 2, this is the integral, and x lying from 0 to pi by 2. So here this is perfectly fine if even if you don't write x equal to 0 to pi by 2. It is understood that when you are writing the limits, see when you are integrating, integral sign is on the left of the integrand, after, and the limits are on top of the integral sign. Whereas after evaluating the integral, then before applying the limits, we will be writing the limits on the right side, and we enclose the answer in square brackets. So that's a regular or the standard way of writing these questions. So what we get is, now the upper limit is sine 2 times pi by 2 minus upon 2 minus sine 2 times 0 upon 2. And so when we solve it, we get sine 2 and 2 gets cancelled. So sine pi upon 2 minus sine 0 upon 2. But both sine pi and sine 0 are 0. And so we get the answer as integral of this given function is 0. Now same way you can take up other questions of exercise 7.9. So let's take up another question which involves some results already done. Let's take up question number 10, which says 0 to 1 dx upon 1 plus x squared. So if you just see, we'll have to first evaluate the indefinite integral inside it. And so what do we get? I is equal to indefinite integral, or simply integral of 1 upon 1 plus x squared is tan inverse x, and then you write on the right side, you write x equal to 0 to 1, and when we evaluate it, it becomes tan inverse 1 minus tan inverse 0. And now simply substitute these we find the values of these functions, tan inverse 1 and tan inverse 0. We know that tan inverse 1 is pi by 4 minus tan inverse 0 is 0, and so we get I is equal to pi by 4. As you would have noticed that every time we are getting the definite integral as purely a constant, that is a function free from the variable x. Now let's take up some other question. Let's take up question number 19. So what do we have in question number 19 is the integral of 6x plus 3 whole upon x squared plus 4 into dx from x equal to 0 to 2. As we can clearly see, it is a function of the kind px plus q over ax squared plus bx plus c dx. So we will first write, we have to first evaluate the indefinite integral given to us. So first we write, let 6x plus 3 equal to a times the derivative of the denominator, which is 2x plus b. Now what we get is, it can be written as 6x plus 3 is equal to 2a times x plus b. So comparing the coefficient of x on either side and the constants, we get 2a equal to 6, which gives us a equal to 3 and b equal to also 3 directly by comparing the constants. Therefore, 6x plus 3 over x squared plus 4 can be written as ax. That is, we have a into not a into x, but a into the derivative of the denominator, that is 3 into 2 times x plus b, which is 3, whole upon x squared plus 4. Therefore, the integral of 6x plus 3 upon x squared plus 4 dx becomes equal to, you can write it as 3 times 2x over x squared plus 4 dx plus 3 into dx upon x squared plus 4. Now, we know that this is, the numerator is a derivative of the denominator, so directly this comes out to be, if you substitute the denominator as t, you get numerator gets absorbed in dt, so we get this as log t, which on substituting back gives us log of x squared plus 4 plus 3 times. Now this is again a standard result, which can be written as x squared plus 2 squared, and therefore we get integral of 6x plus 3 upon x squared plus 4 dx is equal to 3 times log x squared plus 4 plus 3 times, this is 1 upon a is 2 tan inverse x upon a plus a constant, and obviously here we are not writing a constant because ultimately we have to apply the limits to get the definite integral. Therefore, the given definite integral is 3 log of x squared plus 4 plus 3 by 2 tan inverse of x by 2, and then you apply the limits x equal to 0 to 2. And this gives us I is equal to, first you apply 2 throughout and minus, then we apply x equal to 0 throughout. So we get 3 log 2 squared plus, that is 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 3 by 2 tan inverse 2 by 2 is 1. This is the first term, minus, when you apply the lower limit you get 3 log x squared is 0, so only 4 plus 3 by 2 tan inverse 0 by 2 is 0, and then when you substitute you get I is equal to 3 log 8. I can combine the two results together, minus 3 log 4 plus 3 by 2 tan inverse 1 is pi by 4 minus tan inverse 0 is 0, and these two get combined to 3 log 8 by 4 plus this comes out to be 3 pi by 8, and this gives us I is equal to 3 log 2 plus 3 pi by 8, which as you can observe it's again free from x, it's purely a constant. So in this manner you can try out the rest of the questions of exercise 7.9 and also some other related results. Thank you.